basically we're going to define. So I always go through the clarity part of what we're talking about. So this is definitions of growth and fixed. So just some bullet points on what that means. So growth mindset is people that believe that intelligence and talents can be improved through hard work and learning and effort. So they can always be improved. They view challenges as opportunities. There's development and experience, and then the application. Challenges are just great, and they thrive in those challenges, even though it might be they feel like it's a failure at the moment, but it's also it's a growth time through the challenge. So high standards through that challenge gives a growth message so to the person. So failures are temporary. It's like, I didn't do my best, but now through this challenge, I know what to do better next time. A fixed mindset is very fixed, and those go into a lot of thinking errors too, thinking error stories and thinking errors. Part 1 and 2 is on YouTube, and those are my most popular. They're very informative. So they're very fixed. So what happens in a fixed mindset is ego boost happens and you feel really good, and then it crashes into low worth. So the world against you and always trying to prove yourself, that's called justification in a defense mechanism. That's actually a title of a defense mechanism in the thinking errors and defense mechanisms. If you're trying to explain yourself and prove yourself, then you're in a fixed mindset. Avoid challenges, feel threatened. You do a lot of shame parenting and praise parenting. We're going to talk about praise. Like, wait, praise is good. Sure. So she talks a lot about that in the book of what that looks like and the difference between praise. So we're going to ask a question here and see if, so I'm just going to read our 4 questions from the book. It's, page 12 here, right at the beginning, to see if you're in a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. So yes, we're talking about parenting, but of course, if you're in a fixed mindset in certain things, we're not always 100% in all things, right? So if you're a fixed mindset in this thing or that thing, and then you're in a growth mindset with other things, it can vary. But most of the time, it's pretty rounded in all your environments of you're a growth mindset person or a fixed mindset person. So we want to know what you are. So when you're parenting, that's always going to come across to the child, or as you're teaching or as you're coaching, or, of course, she's like, parenting, business, school, relationships. All of these subjects are in here with not just parenting, not just coaching, but a lot of business stuff. Okay, so here's the 4 questions. So this is your intelligence is something very basic about you that you can't change very much. So is that a fixed or growth? Can you learn new things, but you can't really change how intelligent you are? No matter how much intelligence you have, you can always change it quite a bit. Or you can always substantially change how intelligent you are. So of course, 3 and 4 reflect on a growth mindset. The first 2 are a fixed mindset. So some questions there to kind of see how you do with intelligence. That's just was about intelligence. There's more. So in the next slide, and if you can't see my slides, hopefully you can follow along. Like Heather said, you're going to get the PowerPoints and the recording to this, so you can go through it again. So I'll read this quote from her book. In a fixed mindset, students believe their basic abilities, their intelligence, their talents are fixed traits. They have a certain amount, and that's that. And then their goal becomes to look at smart, their goal becomes to, does that make sense? To look smart, yeah, all the time and never look dumb. So their goal is to pretend that they're, do a pretend, right? And make sure everyone thinks they're smart and they don't want to look dumb. That's a lot of pressure. In a growth mindset, students understand that their talents and abilities can be developed through effort, good teaching, persistence. They don't necessarily think everybody's the same or anyone can be Einstein, but they believe everyone can get smarter if they work at it. So that's her tons of research that she's done on this, and she's asked a lot of questions. She's at the university and she teaches this class and gets a lot of feedback in that, but in her research, that's what comes out. Students and how they deal with disappointment, how they deal with their intelligence, their talents. They have a hard time moving through that when they're in a fixed mindset. Okay, so how do you grow it? We're just explaining, the difference between these things so we can go into parenting. But the growth mindset is based on a belief that your basic qualities are things that can cultivate, right? So this is the growth. I love plants. I'm a grower. I love planting and growing things. And so it's like I visualize cultivating something, right? And it grows from a small seed to something big, but there's work along the way. I have to water it, and your strategies is makes a difference on how you do that. So believing that your qualities are carved in stone is a fixed mindset. Again, praising children's intelligence, we're going to talk about this, where their talents harms their motivation and it harms their performance actually, okay, in statistics. And I've always been an appreciation teacher instead of a praise teacher. So it's like, let's appreciate their effort instead of praise their end result. You see the difference? So the example is, that picture has many beautiful colors. Tell me about it. So let's have a discussion about, well, isn't discipline teaching, right? So do we have to discipline this? Do we have to always just appreciate what they're doing? Praise, you're a good boy when you color in the lines. That's praise. You're a good boy. And then instead of, the picture is beautiful, tell me about it. So how do we grow, and where do we find the room to grow with our kids, and giving them the tools that they can go into a growth mindset is a little bit of work. It's not, it statistically doesn't come natural, because in thinking errors, so one of them is focusing on the negative, okay? So statistically in America anyways, lots of people focus on the negative. They don't just like automatically go into positive thinking. If they're given some information a certain way, negative, they focus on the negative and that percentage of the negative instead of the positive. So we're naturally kind of going to focus on the fixed mindset and like, this is just how it is. And so it is a little bit of work, like empathy. When I'm doing a lot of emotional coaching and emotional empathy work, it has to be taught. It's a shift. Sometimes we have to teach empathy. We have to model empathy. So it's the same thing. How do we model growth and growth mindset? And this is a few ways that you can do that. This is some examples. So this is what you can, for yourself and for your kiddos, you can write this down. Think of a time where you were enjoying something, just enjoying something, sports, crossword puzzle, learning something new. You were doing a craft, you were cooking. When's the last time you were just enjoying something? So I could go on and on about that. My life, I have very enjoyable moments all day long, every second of my life, all night long. I mean, it's just, I am a very, look for the growth mindset in every opportunity. It's taken me a long time. You have to be mindful, you have to be present, you have to be balanced. Those are all things that have to be there for you to be in this mindset. So we'll get to the point where when we have kiddos that are very distraught and very non-present, it's really hard to be in a growth mindset. But think about when you were enjoying something, and then it became hard and you wanted out. Okay. Maybe you suddenly felt tired, dizzy, bored, or hungry. like that bored and hungry thing happens, kids lose their dopamine and then they're like, oh, I need some dopamine, I'm bored. Next time, and by the way, that explanation right there is in Brainstorm, a book by Dan Siegel. And that one I did last August to start out the school year. So if you have kids starting school, which everybody does, that one's already on there. What the brain needs for success, it's called, for the school year. So next time this happens, don't fool yourself. It's a fixed mindset. Put yourself in a growth mindset. Picture your brain forming new connections as you meet the challenge and learn, keep going. So that's just a switch, right? That's a mindset switch of, oh, I'm bored, I want to fail, I'm dizzy, I'm hungry, and I'm tired. So when kids are doing their homework, this is just a constant battle. And it's like, oh, well, wait, where's our boundaries? Picture your brain, okay, stop, take a break, let's connect the dots, meet the challenge, and then come up with the challenge. And there's ways to do that. And I have a lot of wordage, some examples of that. I have a handout that you can print out from this workshop that kind of helps the kiddo start doing those statements. And another example that was on page like 53. So she has growth, grow your mindset at the end of every chapter, basically, and they're really good. So that was where that came from. So this is another one, grow your mindset. Think about your hero. I love things like imaginary for kids. So think about your hero. Do you think of this person as someone, with great big abilities and who has achieved with little effort? We usually think, oh, they're just born with it. They're a hero and they're just born with it. Now that's, you can do make-believe. I mean, some character, I don't know, there's lots of characters that you think, oh, they're just that way. But in real life, who's your hero? Now go find out the truth. Find out the tremendous effort that they went to accomplish their goals and how they got there, and admire them more. So write that down. Where's my hero? I want to find out how they got there and find out even more about their effort and their accomplishments, and then you're going to admire them more. Okay. And this next question, how to grow in a mindset, is do you label your kids? I'm pretty sure all of us do. So this one is, an artist. This one is, the scientist. This one is the smart one. This one is, whatever you're labeling the kids as. I have 3 totally different kiddos, and I had lots of foster kids that were very different. And it's like, we always, so watch your labeling. Next time, remember that you're not helping them, even though you may be praising them. Remember our study, which she talks about, like this study about praise. It actually, where praising kids' ability lowered their IQ scores, find a growth mindset way to compliment them. So the way that we compliment and increase their intelligence by not praising them is appreciation. So in my Love and Logics, when I always talk about appreciation in parenting, it's always appreciation, because they get enough praise from other stuff, and we go into this, oh, you look really good when you do this, or say this, or wear this, right? But I appreciate that you picked out that. I appreciate that you had this kind of effort on your homework. I appreciate. So that's what we want to, that's a growth mindset. A little more tips there. Okay, so there's 2 worlds. I said 2 words. 2 worlds. There's 2 worlds. So we know about the 2 worlds now. So here's a failure. I'm not growing, not reaching for things that you value. It means that you're not fulfilling your potential. And then the failure is about a setback, getting bad grades, losing a tournament, getting fired, getting rejected. It means that you're not smart or talented. So it's like, okay, I have potential, or I'm a failure. There's potential and growth. So just this little tiny, you can't see it, right? It's a little chart. But that explains some challenges, obstacles, efforts, criticism, is fixed mindset, and this is what they do. Here's a growth mindset. Some more examples of what they do. They learn from criticism. I don't love the word criticism. Well, it's a four horsemen. Criticism doesn't work. Two worlds. Okay, so the next two worlds that I'm going to bring into this is shame and guilt. So are we shame parenting or are we guilt parenting out of guilt? So this is Brene Brown stuff. If we get into shame, is the focus on self, and guilt is the focus on behavior. So I am bad, or I did something bad. And so I am bad as shame. Well, I did something bad. I need to correct it. I'm going to learn from this. I'm going to do better. I'm going to know better next time. And look at what happens when you're in a shame mindset. It's the same thing. Shame is a very fixed mindset. And so that's what I would, it's like, here's shame mindset, here's guilt mindset. It's okay to have guilt. It's actually healthy. And so you feel like you can grow from that guilt or from something that you did or something that someone else did to you. Shame is just, oh, I'm insecure, I'm misunderstood, I'm wrong, I'm inadequate, and I'm just shut down, and I'm unworthy, and I'm unlovable. It sounds, it's awful when we go through all those shame words, right? But shame is a rooted issue, very, very rooted. So we want to just watch that. I do have a whole shame resilient parenting on YouTube I think it's pretty good of like explaining really what that is. So if you were parented by a shame parent, in a fixed mindset, which by Brene Brown's research, there was a lot of us that were shamed by shame parented. So you're a bad kid, and you're only a good kid if you're doing this. Very only praised when you're this, but everything else is I am a bad kid. Okay, so this is a little bit more on that. This is what grows empathy, which is opposite. Shame and empathy can't live in the same space. So we want to kill shame by having empathy. Okay, so here's a little chart about what empathy is, how to grow it, because it will always kill shame. So compassion and connection, courage, spirituality, getting in the swamp, like Brene Brown says, you just got to get in. And that's a growth mindset. Fourth grade is when we compare ourselves. So it's back when that was a little bit of old. It's actually moved to third grade and younger is when we start comparing each other to each other, and then comparing ourselves to others, and then that's when bullying is happening way early. So just so you know, practice shame. When you're practicing shame, you're in shame. You're going to shame others. That's when bullying happens, inside the home, outside the home. So just look at that list and see what we can do about that. Okay, so let's get to the benefits and then how to do it. Okay, so benefits of growth parenting. This is all we need to know. My Charlie Brown and Snoopy are my favorite. They're best friends. I'm a fan of the Peanuts. So if parents want to give their children a gift, okay, and I'm always talking about gifts, like, oh, well, that was a gift. You have awareness, that's a gift. The best thing they can do is to teach their children to love challenges. Now, stop right there. I would like that to say the best gift that you can ever give your child is to model you dealing with challenges. So love challenges, okay, we love challenges. But during COVID, how did you handle challenges? How did you handle change? It's not even challenges, it's change and trauma. How do you handle loss, grief, and trauma and powerless? So that's in the wheel of the emotional wheel. What kind of emotions are happening when you deal with loss, grief, and trauma and challenges? What is it that you have done? So what is it? How did you model it? Let's, just think about that for a minute and think, okay, how did I model that? How did I deal with something coming up when I was doing something enjoyable and then something crashed it? When I do trauma work, it's like, okay, now what happens if we have an obstacle that comes in? Now, people that can handle that obstacle and figure out like, well, I'm going to run over it, I'm going to stop and I'm going to observe the obstacle. Awesome. So intrigued by mistakes and loving what you hate. So that's something that I had to like do something, love what you hate. So I use the stupid example of like dishes. I leave dishes for last. I'm like, okay, I don't know what that is, like I don't hate too many things, but I don't love dishes. So it's like, how can I love what I hate? And that's a growth mindset. That's a challenge of like making sure it's like, you know what? Okay, some of the times I'm going to do those first. Some of the times I'm not. And once I'm doing it, I'm not, it's not a problem. But it's just like, oh, I just leave those for last. And then you start being appreciative that you have dishes, that you cooked a meal and that you had, a food in your stomach. So intrigued by mistakes, enjoy the effort and keep learning. So if that is a gift that you can give to your kids about how to keep learning and how to enjoy the effort, I am telling you, this right now is extremely difficult. So you're going to tell me I'm crazy. I've got so many kids in my office and teens that are like, there's zero there. There's no effort. That's the whole other, workshop that I've done about motivation. How do you keep them learning? That way your children don't have to be slaves of praise. They will have a long life way to build and repair their own confidence. So loving challenges and mistakes and keep learning. So that's the opposite of perfectionism also. So a fixed mindset is that perfectionism. So we just don't want to install that because that takes a lot to uninstall. And teachers and parents and it's like it just takes that one belief system that a kiddo holds on to. So this is how we do it. Let me read this and see. Let's take a break from you. Okay. Kids will say things like, I'm bored or I'm hungry. Yes. So when they have a dopamine drop. So what happens is that dopamine drop is happening between 10 and 26. That's the adolescent time now. Used to be a lot shorter. Sorry, we have a lot more parenting in adolescence now. So it's like, oh, I'm hungry, I'm bored, so she's saying that, a 5-year-old likes to say those things at the time of bed and routine. So that is another defense mechanism. And that's in my, the other workshop, like a sleep hygiene power struggles. That has to do with power struggles. That doesn't have to do with dopamine. So that's a power struggle. So bedroom, bathroom, and kitchen are power rooms. So when we have a fixed mindset in challenges and everything else, what you're kind of talking about, I think, is I don't have power. So 5-year-olds do that. They have problems with bedtime, eating their dinner and doing, what they're supposed to do in the bathroom and potty training. So that's a power thing. So she'll ask for a snack, then, giving her cheese. Okay, especially late, we have early dinner, but now I'm wondering if it's a growth mindset. It's not. So now I'm wondering if there is a growth mindset way to approach this. Yes, there is. It's not giving dairy at night. So we're getting right there. I have to laugh at that. So just laugh at that. Dairy at night, one of the worst things. Carbs and dairy, the worst things you can put in your kids at night. So I am an internal. I'm trained in internal medicine for clinical mental health counselors, and so I do a lot of diet and I do a lot of gut stuff, and connected to anxiety and sleep and issues. Yeah. So she can have a choice, so the thing is you give her some power between 8 and 8:30, and that's when we have snacks. And then my rule, like my own personal, like when I had kids and here and everything, it was the kitchen's closed at 9 o'clock. So they just know that's what the expectation is. There's no battle. It's just a boundary. So that's a power struggle thing. It's not a growth or fixed mindset. When kids are little, okay, This is why we want to catch this when they're little and set a growth mindset. She's too young to know that fixed, but we're teaching a growth mindset. And so this is where we can go into these examples. So instead of, I'm not good at this, this kiddo is saying, I'm not tired, I'm hungry, when she's bored, but that's one thing, but it's also a power struggle. So for example, in the growth mindset, you want to help your child say, okay, what am I missing? I don't know what I'm missing. So I'm not good at this, but I don't know what I'm missing. I'm really not good at math, but what am I missing? So we start with those phrases and those labels so early. I couldn't read. I can't do math. I can't take tests. Think about all the things that we struggled in school. I don't make friends very well. I'm shy, all these labels, and that's where it starts. So I give up. Instead, you can be like, oh, I used a different strategy. What strategy can you use? So you don't have to give up, or if you did give up, what strategy did you use to get out of it? So this is too hard. So we hear our kids like, oh, this is just too hard. I can't do my job. And then parents are like, what is wrong? You know how to do this job. I know you can do it. So then you praise them. You're a good cleaner. You know how to clean your room. You know how to make your bed. And you praise them. And then it's like, what? That didn't help. So they said, this is too hard. You didn't validate it. Then it's like, this may take some time. And then better then is, I spent the time and still don't know how. Okay, so you give them 10 minutes, say, okay, try to make your bed. Let me see. And then how did you figure it out? Oh, do you want me to help you, teach you? Or so you get to that solution part, which is emotional coaching and love and logics. Love and logics gives two choices, and they're always thinking choices instead of fight words. They're not fight words, they're thinking words. So you give them thinking words. Well, what would you be able to do? This or this? Do you want to try again later? Or do you want me to help you make your bed? So it's just that. Oh, I need some more time. Okay, I'm going to set the timer for 5 minutes and let's see what you get done. That's a growth mindset. That helps the kid be challenged. And the brain likes time. It likes an absolute cutoff time. So I can't, another one is like, I'll never be smart. So I'm telling you, I have so many kids very young coming up with, and parents are telling me this, these very devastating negative cognitions. I am dumb. I am worthless. I don't want to live. We're getting very much younger with these negative cognitions. You tell me what's going on. I don't know, but we're starting a lot younger, a lot more stress, a lot more diet issues, a lot more sleep issues is my, hypothesis. It's always sleep and diet first. So I'm not smart. And then try saying, well, I will learn how to do this. If you're not smart, then let's learn. So you validate, all right, I don't feel smart right now. I am dumb is a negative cognition. I feel not so smart right now is okay. So you validate that feeling, and then you're like, okay, I'll learn how to do this. And then what? Oh, how are you going to do that? And so you see, these are like some questions. How can I get to plan B? How do I learn this? I love conflict resolution with plan Bs. It didn't work, so let's go to plan B. And that's time management. That's quadrants, A, B, and C. I love A, B, and C. You know what? Let's do B. Did we write down what plan B was? Because, we didn't. If you fail that test, what does that look like? Oh, let's do plan B. Let's make up some homework. Let's go in early. Let's get a tutor. I mean, I went through, 10 straight years of school. I had to do that myself. Plan B. I have lots of plan Bs. I don't know how I got there, but you have to create that plan so your brain doesn't just feel limbo, like you don't have something to go after plan A, right? That's life, right? We have to go with plan B. So these are just some ideas. These are all, you can print this one out and put it on your fridge to help explain what a growth mindset statements look like. And then there's this little example, some more like what to say and what not to say. Okay. The quick, and it's practice. It's not going to just, you don't just all of a sudden in her book, of course, it's like, you don't just all of a sudden get rid of all your growth mindset or all your fixed mindset and move them to a growth mindset. It's a little bit of practice, but it's also mindfulness. That's why I love that she called it mindset. It's mindfulness. You have to be present in your frontal lobes to be able to do this self-talk too. So this is my handout that I made a while back about growth mindset parenting. So this is just, I want to focus on the growth, right? Let's not worry about what we're doing wrong and the fixed. But so these are statements. Like I said, I'm a grower, I'm a visual. It's always about trees. It's always about flowers. It's always mountains or what, how can we get there? And so this is on my website. And I have other handouts on my website of paperbackconnections.com. And so the thing is this is, do your best, find a new strategy. It's okay. Favorite word. Okay. It's okay to try again. Once again, thriving with challenges. A person in a growth mindset thrives in the challenge, but you have to model that. I love how you don't give up. That's not a praise. That's an appreciation. I love how you don't give up. And then I love to teach a kid, you can train your brain. Your brain is changeable. Your neural pathways can move and change. What's plan B? We've already gone over. Everyone can change. We've gone over. Failure is temporary. We've gone over. Mistakes are okay. Okay is my favorite word. Okay is the magical word is one of my workshops about following instructions. Okay, so this is some questions you can ask. So now let's do it. Let's okay, your kid is at school. They come home. That's supposed to say today. Of course, that's covering up that word. I just noticed that. So how you can challenge yourself today. When your kiddo gets in the car, if you are ready for this, if you're ready for them to join you, after school, this whole next year is going to be a whole new year again of challenges, but hopefully a little bit more routine and a little bit of back to what school was like, which is full-time, in person, stuff like that. So we're going to have to learn to go into a growth mindset again about these experiences. So these are questions that you can practice. Put them on sticky notes. What challenged you today? What mistakes did you make? How did you learn from them? What else did you want to learn today? Well, I really wanted to, and they'll talk about social and connection. And we can't forget about that part. I wanted to make a friend today and I didn't play with anyone. And I wanted to, play with Sally. And Sally just ignored me. And, I didn't sit by anybody at lunch. That's what I wanted to do today. Okay, let's strategize. What can we try? Well, I tried to talk to her and she didn't do anything. She kind of ignored me. Okay. Well, what's plan B? Thinking words, right? They're all thinking words instead of fighting words or praise. What we like to do as parents, the best and fastest way for us to get out of it is to fix it. No, you're really cute. You're really good friend. You know how to, we'll just go find someone else to play with. She's not worth it. And we go into the fix mode, right? That is, then we've just done a lose-lose. We have taught our child that you're going to rescue and fix the situation. So we like to rescue and tell the child that they're not, dumb, that they're not ugly, and that they're not, being singled out, and they're not, and that they have lots of friends, and that they're not lonely, So instead of correcting the behavior or the emotion, we validate it. We don't need to agree with it, but we validate. So you feel really ugly or you feel really stupid. Well, what happened? Well, the teacher said this to me, or another kid got way better scores on the test and showed me and then laughed at me. So, okay. So do you want to work harder to get there? Do you want to learn how to, Yeah, I do. So it's just those kind of conversations. Do you work as hard as you could have? Did you work as hard as you could have? Yes, I did. Well, I could do a little better. Okay. There's always room for improvement. That's a growth mindset. So with me so far, any questions about that? So how can we improve this? How can we do it now? And go ahead and chat. We'll do some questions and comments in a minute. We'll have time. So, okay, number one, a reward system. So I've added that into a workshop and into my into a handout that I have about this, the self-discipline. And I don't have it listed in here. It's a whole different thing. But we have to get to a reward system. Our brain has to know that there's a reward. So we're motivated to do it again. So first we have self-discipline. Then we have self-control. So we can, control. We have self-discipline, then control. Then we have a reward system because we had a delay of gratification, right? So delay of gratification is like, I'm gonna not eat 6 donuts before dinner. That's self-control. And then I have a reward system of, oh, I can have one donut after dinner. And then you're motivated to do it again. And you go back up to the top to self-discipline. So that's how it works, but we have to get to a reward system. And what I find in adults and kids, and we don't have a very good reward system. We think we do by, Netflixing and eating it and gambling it and drinking it and smoking, and taking a break, and, or doing distractions that turn into avoidances. And we think that those are our reward systems. So if we video game for 3 hours, it's not a reward system anymore. It's an avoidance. So we accept the failure, okay, in the next part, because that's the growth mindset of, if I am self-disciplined and I delay gratification, then I fail a test, right? You still fail a test. I accept that because I did everything I could, but wait, something's missing. I need to do something else, something different. I need to make sure I have a reward system. Then I'm motivated to do it again. So how do you remove a fixed inner voice? That's capitalized, fixed inner voice. So our inner self, what that tells me is, and that's really hard. You don't just remove it. You have to get to a positive cognition that replaces the negative cognition. That's changing your belief system. So your belief systems go along with your value systems, but your belief system is, my belief story is that I am dumb. I don't just feel dumb. And so how do we remove that? That's a little bit of work. That's some trauma work. That's some therapy. That's some CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy is that. It's a little bit of, here's the cognitive, here's the thought, right? Here's the behavior. We can change the behavior. We don't change our thoughts or feelings really, but we can change the behavior. I can't stop thoughts from coming in, but I can allow them to go to a behavior or not, okay? So brain continues to develop. Of course, we've talked about that. So how do we improve? Well, practice. And 6 months, it takes the brain to move through change or doing something new. So say you're drinking more water every day or exercising 3 times a week or something. It takes 6 months without relapse to have the brain change and to move into new neural pathways. And that's the stages of change. And so the stages of change says, here's the 6 stages. It takes 6 months to 5 years to stay in maintenance. So after you've gone through all the stages and you're out of denial and pre-contemplation, stuff like that, you can get to change. But that takes time. It doesn't take, there's a habit book, I have 2 copies of it, okay, you can make some habits in a very short amount of time, but you have to do it every day. But honestly, it's 3 to 6 months of action before you go into maintenance of 6 months to 5 years plus. So you've got to change the neural pathways in how you respond to things. Use a growth mindset, praise the willingness to try, effort, practice. We've gone over that a little bit. How do we improve? By contributing success to being smart or being the best, right? So it's just, I appreciate your effort. That's how we improve. We don't raise IQ by praising. We just don't. But we will raise intelligence of your emotional intelligence by doing a growth mindset parenting and the emotional coaching. So the more emotionally available and intelligent a child is, the smarter they are and all that. That's statistical. IQ is not as important as emotional IQ. So we want to make sure they're emotionally sound. And nowadays, that's becoming a lot harder to do. So model flexibility. So I would like to know how you guys, as parents or teachers or whatever you're doing with children, how you're modeling flexibility. Perfectionism really runs deep into shame parenting and shaming others. We have to have this model of perfectionism in our school system, or else, or this, or in our home. So what does that mean? And modeling for handling changes. So, this is just an example, handling it without anger or frustration. Now, you can get mad and sad, but anger bursts, rage, and frustration that shows is teaching a child or anyone else that you are not in a growth mindset. So any comments on that? Go ahead and send them through. So this is, I wanted to bring up, so of course, here's the book, Mindset, Brene Brown stuff. There's lots of TED Talks. If you've not read some of her stuff, I'm sure you have. There's lots of free stuff. I love her podcast. There's an Audible that I just love. I don't even think I have it on here. I don't. The Gifts of Imperfection in Parenting is only on Audible. It's about 2 hours plus long. And that is just only through Audible. It's not in print, but I love that one. So this one right here, this YouTube, the second one here, is actually an audio book of Carol's Mindset, Dweck. It's the whole book on YouTube in an audio book form. So you can totally click on that and listen to the whole book for free. So that's that. If you have any questions on that. So, okay. So how do we grow our mindset? How are we not labeling kids, or any discussion on that? Take a minute. Anyone read the whole book? I think I've listened to it and read it probably 4 or 5 times. And I came across it many years ago, in school, because it's just, there's those verbiage of growth mindset. You're like, what is that? So anything else? Kind of wanted to keep it up for discussion. So that learn and help learn is the section about this this picture that I had in the PowerPoint. So how do we learn to help learn? That's a good question. Well, we'll look at this. Okay. We struggle in stop moving into anger. I find often switches anger after the kids don't listen the 6th or 7th time. Okay, that's a good one. So it's a fixed mindset if we are going into anger. If we're asking 6 to 7 times, that's That's the frustration. So many months ago when I did a PowerPoint called I'm okay, you're okay kind of thing. Okay is the magical word. It's about following instructions. My biggest complaint of parents is kids do not follow instructions. They don't just listen. It's not about listening. It's they don't follow instructions. So look at that PowerPoint if you want. And I have that one on my website. If you go to Paperback Connections too, paperbackconnectionswithan.com, you can see the whole PowerPoint. So yeah, by the 6th or 7th time, you're gonna switch to anger. You are done. So by the 3rd time is it. So put a boundary on that. And what's the consequence, which is basically, I don't even do consequences. I do removal of the reward system. So this slide, how can we improve reward? And how do we discipline is remove the reward. So the rewards that we're giving our kids, we just remove. So because they didn't follow instructions, they didn't do their jobs. So they don't get TV time or their phone or whatever, their phone time. So if that helps, kind of go back to the drawing board of like, why am I asking? What's going on that you're asking 6 to 7 times? And no matter what, you're going to be angry by then. And irritability isn't my style is kind of a really good one on YouTube too. That's another workshop. So if you have a problem with irritability that gets to that level, you can't de-escalate when you're escalated. You cannot de-escalate and get kids to listen to you when you're escalated, ever, ever, ever. So it's, once again, it's modeling that. Okay. So someone's a little overwhelmed because yes, and most people are with my workshops because I go really fast. And it's like, wait, how do I get rid of this inner voice with my child's inner voice of telling themselves that they're really dumb or something, right? Could I review one little baby step to the beginning with the parent needing to change his or her mindset from the fixed mindset? Yes. So basically, you're going to start practicing. Your job, number one, is you practicing catching yourself being in a fixed mindset. And so go back to the first slide and say, okay, what is a fixed mindset? It's absolutes, it's perfectionism, it's failure is not temporary. I'm not going to learn from this. It's a little bit of shifting your belief system that things are out to get you. If, so if that makes sense, yeah, just going back to your mindset and listening to this. I mean, it's a couple hours. It really makes a lot more sense. And it's really, so what I tell people to always do with all my books is pick one chapter, read it 6 times. So if you pick the chapter, say, you're in a business leadership setting and you want to be a better growth mindset leader and business person, then read chapter 5 and read it 6 times and then implement that, because in the end of her chapters, she always has a growth mindset challenge, like how to go there, how to think about your hero instead of, or are there situations that you feel stupid in? So then you say, yes, I feel stupid in a meeting. Well, how do you get to a growth mindset in a business meeting? Okay, so a follow-up to the reward, taking away the reward, perfect, whoever's doing that, yes. And then they collapse into a tantrum. Wow, perfect scenario, happens all the time. And then I'm like, perfect. So they're gonna throw a fit when they don't follow instructions. And that's the biggest complaint, is kids are throwing a tantrum, an emotional breakdown when they don't get what they want. Because you've trained them to do that. Because you've asked 6 or 7 times, you're frustrated, they're frustrated. And so then it's a tantrum. So that's a really good one for emotional coaching workshop. So it teaches you, and self-soothing one I did, how to help the child self-soothe when they're in a tantrum. So there's no discipline when a kid is in a tantrum because they're in their back of their brain. You're not going to reason, you're not going to teach, you're not going to, organize their thoughts. It just doesn't work. So we have to let the tantrum happen, celebrate the emotion, validate it, and then learn from it. So when you don't follow instructions by the third time, or even the second time, really, even a 5-year-old, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to walk away, and you're going to throw a fit, or you're going to, do this, and then that's what's going to happen. And those should calm down after you have a good amount of change and practice of doing that. It's big. There's a couple workshops that would help you on that. Is praise, the question is praise strategy something that can be used to help someone in their 50s to change some behaviors? Or is it too late to teach an old dog new tricks? Oh, so I love the, my teenager, how do I have to teach delaying gratification, self-discipline by age 5 is what Scott Peck in Road Less Travel teaches. So he says you have to teach self-discipline by 5. Does that mean that a teenager and a 50-year-old can't learn how to have self-discipline? No. Or how to delay gratification. So praise doesn't help anyone. I don't care how old they are. Appreciation does. I really appreciate that you called me back. You are such a good person when you do this. No, that's praise. So you can totally learn how to do appreciation instead of praise for anybody in your business, at home, at work, at school, with your own kids, your grandkids. I mean, if you're in your 50s, I mean, I catch myself really trying to do appreciation with my 2 grandkids. I really appreciate, and here's the reward. I appreciate you did that without asking. I really appreciate you asking for permission. That's in the okay magic word. Okay is a magical word. My grandkids ask for permission. They accept no for an answer every single time, and then they say okay to me. And I don't know, my daughters taught them very well, but if they don't, it's like, oh, I didn't hear okay, Grammy, so it's repeating and practicing that with a safe person in a safe way. And then I don't praise them. I appreciate you did this. I really appreciated that you did that. That's all that is. A couple more. A 6-year-old that I asked a positive question like, what made you laugh today? And all I get is, I don't remember. Or I need to keep in my brain. I need it to keep in my brain. I can't share. Okay. So yes, there's a different approach. There is do it a different time of the day, or so you're trying to emotionally coach. When did you laugh today? So you're trying to see what emotions they had for the day or what made them happy. They can draw it. They can play it out. You can talk about it. I don't like doing emotional work over food, because food, bathroom and kitchen and bedroom and doing the same thing at bedtime, we want to keep them all separate. We want to do it in between. So, I mean, the best thing about a kid is like drawing for a 6-year-old. 6-year-olds do not have the ability to actually express that yet. So you say, oh, you don't remember. So you validate that. You're like, okay, we'll talk about it, another time. Or maybe, we can write about it or draw about it, or they don't really want to share and they're stuffing it. So we gotta figure out if they're stuffing or not.